Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my channel, Become the Disruptor. My name is Magda. I'm a trauma-informed therapist, and today we're going to be talking about what is actually effective therapy and why you don't need weekly sessions to get really good results. And actually, the whole thing about people assuming that you need weekly sessions and ongoing weekly sessions with your therapist, that is basically a marketing model for therapists. It's like, that's what it's almost like I've been taught when I was studying. And unfortunately, it is not very client friendly, because what it does build, it actually builds dysregulation over time. It's almost like a person becoming dependent for nervous system regulation on their therapist, and it's not promoting the autonomy of you as a client. It's not appreciating the autonomy of you as a client, and that is not healthy. That is creating a lot of I would say very bizarre attachment dynamics a lot of the times between a therapist and a client, and that needs to be addressed, because the whole therapy business is booming. There's a lot of people speaking therapy language, but let's actually focus on what type of therapy is effective and can bring results. So at the beginning of my private practice, I was working with clients on a weekly basis. But what I did notice that there was a lot of clients that I started working with weekly, and then those who actually managed to heal, they started probably after like 2-3 months. They didn't need weekly sessions. They moved on to fortnightly sessions, and then they were decreasing the frequency of their sessions. Eventually they healed. And like I said, there will be people that you will see, obviously anonymized feedback on my website. So, and I've been working with them long term, and they had really good results because they didn't ever rely on me as a regulator of their nervous system. I help them to a degree to process some of the stuff and teach them actually how to regulate their nervous system outside of the sessions. Then they were able to practice that, they could see the results, and then they just simply didn't need weekly sessions. So that's why, for example, currently I am not even working with clients on the weekly basis. I don't even start this work, because the thing is that, guys, when you have a proper good therapist who is able to straight away almost like see your nervous system and see your triggers and see your patterns, they will be able to provide you with an action plan that you will need time to implement. And this is how I work with my clients. So during the sessions, there will be obviously a lot of insights that will be coming up. And again, depending on a client, because sometimes it will be insights, sometimes it will be some processing, emotional processing that needs to be done. And usually what happens is that when I am teaching my clients how to emotionally process with their nervous system, their emotions that are stuck when they are triggered, it's almost like they becoming less and less triggered. And then again, the therapy is working. So they don't need frequent sessions, because they just simply don't rely on me as an external regulator of their nervous system. So once they see the patterns, once they have the action plan, they need time to implement it. And some people will straight away, let's say, start working with me on a monthly basis. Some people will start working on twice a month, but weekly, that just not happen, because you don't have enough time to integrate what we've been talking about. And this is actually when that trap of relying on your therapist happens, that it's like, suddenly therapist becomes almost like, a substitution for a priest or substitution for a friend or whoever. People need real like human beings in their life outside of the therapeutic sessions to have results in their healing and on their healing journey. And this is really important, that therapy is not contributing to increasing the dependency and increasing the nervous system to be almost like organized around therapy and around therapeutic sessions. And only regulation outside of the sessions, when you can regulate yourself outside of the sessions, that what builds coherence. So you basically being aligned with who you are and what you want in life, and your nervous system being able to execute actions towards that. That's coherence, and that's what builds long-term regulation. So there'll be like, let's say different types of feedback that I received from my clients. However, if we were to like boil it down to few things, it will be that your decisions, so when you are going through a therapeutic process and your decisions are not becoming almost like clearer and simpler, it means that the therapy is not working for you, and basically this therapist is not for you. So pause, put it on pause, find a different therapist, because therapy is not for you to almost like, oh, let's give it another chance. Like, the therapy is sometimes either working or not. And you can see that. You can see that in your life. If you don't get results with your therapist after like 2-3 months, like proper visible results, then I would suggest for you to really revisit, talk to your therapist about it. What's happening? Is there anything that you're not doing? Because they need to be able to tell you that. They should be able to tell you that. And they should be able to tell you that in extent, like to really be very, very frank with you, very honest. So you will see, like I said, in the feedback from my clients, their decisions started becoming really clear. So that was one thing. The other thing was the relationships. So a lot of people basically started building very healthy relationships outside of their therapy, outside of the therapeutic sessions, because that's what regulation brings. You're able to actually see other people for who they are, and you're no longer almost like drawn towards people who are not good for you. So relationships becoming way simpler, decisions becoming simpler, and then people are way less triggered. So the emotional regulation that I am teaching my clients, and again, that emotional regulation will look different from person to a person, because everyone needs a different, almost like a tweak. And we are actually collaborating with how the clients are learning, because, for example, some of my clients are really visual. So they will require sometimes, like some visual stuff to help them like bring their nervous system back to the baseline. Some people are working in a very different ways, and they're more like movement and action driven. So it's really important that it's not, that's why I cannot give you a individual advice online. It only has to be general. So they are less triggered, they've got better relationships, their decisions are clearer and simple. And this is the most important thing. And this is like something that is the gold. They are fully trusting their own perception. So let's say if they feel that something is off, they trust that feeling. If they see a situation and they feel like, not sure, they trust it. They stop doubting themselves. They stop thinking, oh, maybe this and maybe that. There's none of that. And that, again, comes from regulation, comes from a lot of the times me really being very honest with them, like, what you're saying now is heavily biased by your past experiences. Let's look at this situation from a completely objective perspective, and then they are able to see. But it takes also regulation to be able to take an honest feedback from your therapist as well. So it is really it is you basically mastering the self-trust, and that's what good therapy not weekly therapy necessarily, will bring you towards a trust in your own perception. So the goal of therapy is autonomy. It's not endless processing. And guys, I had been a client myself to a lot of therapists, okay? So I know how it is to be on the receiving end of therapy. And I can honestly say one thing, there's not that many good therapists who are able to really guide people towards proper results. A lot of the therapy is actually focusing on endless processing, on endless insight, and never taking any actions, or very small actions that are almost like nothing changes. And this is, it's like a weekly therapy. I'm meeting with my therapist and we just talk about my week. That's not going to change anything. And this is how a lot of people actually perceive therapy. When sometimes when people ask me, like, what are you doing for a living, whatever, yeah? And this is like a new group of people. I say, well, I'm a therapist. And people, I assume that people are just meeting me and it's like a friend conversation, that like a gossip. That's not what therapy is. But a lot of the times it actually, unfortunately, it ends up being just like, two people talking about the same thing over and over and again. So basically, therapy should make itself unnecessary after some time. So a lot of my clients, like I said, with whom I've been working for years, they just come back once a year because they started with the weekly sessions for 2-3 months when I was still doing the weekly sessions. Then they moved to fortnightly, then to once a month, then once in 3 months, then twice a year, if they actually feel the need. So let's be very objective about therapy, especially therapy nowadays, when you see those advertising when people like drinking their latte and they talking to their therapist. Yeah, so that's not how it works. You should have a life, and your therapist should not be your regulator, should not be the regulator of your nervous system. This is crazy. And this whole industry, I think, grown into a funny monster that is actually doing the opposite of helping people. So I trust that was helpful, and I trust that gave you a slightly different perspective of how therapy should be working based on the real feedback from my clients. And again, you can check that feedback on the website. It's all anonymized, but you can read it and you can see for yourself how people's lives have changed over time with their hard work, because that was all them and them using their capacity to heal, which then brought them to the other side. So if that was helpful, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.